Hello, today is Friday, November 21st, 2025, and today I'll be reading from, again, um, the Center for Action and Contemplation, Richard Rohr's Daily Meditations. Um, Richard Rohr, as I've mentioned before, is a Roman Catholic priest who I'm surprised has not been excommunicated sometimes. But one of the things I noticed and I'll read this to you, but one of the things I noticed when reading these is that while this is a specifically coming from a specifically Christian organization, that many of the things they're discussing at their core are about humanity and I guess reflect upon religion at its best, which is about human relationships. Um, but anyway, I'll talk more about that as I go. The devotion for today is entitled Overcoming a Fear of the Other. And the article opens with a quote from Reverend Dr. Jackie Lewis from her book, Learning How to See. Um, and Jackie writes, the more we bump into the folks who are so called the other, the more we are stretched and the more we are pulled out of bias. We have new truths because we have tangible evidence of the beauty, of the beautiful, powerful creativity of our God who made all of this diversity for us to enjoy. And then the editor of the article writes, Brian McLaren writes that Jesus' model of acceptance, inclusion, and love for the other can help us overcome and heal our biases, particularly contact bias. And then McLaren writes, when I don't have intense and sustained personal contact with the other, my prejudices and false assumptions go unchallenged. Think of the child who is told by the people he trusts that people of another race, religion, culture, sexual orientation, or class are dirty and dangerous. You can immediately see the self reinforcing cycle. Those people are dirty or dangerous, so I will distrust and avoid them, which means I will never have sustained and respectful interactive contact with them, which means I will never discover that they are actually wonderful people to be around. In this way, the prejudice cycle spins on, unchallenged across generations. As prejudice persists, it becomes embedded in cultures and institutions, creating systems of racism and hatred, marginalizing groups who are stigmatized, dehumanized, scapegoated, exploited, oppressed, or even killed. I especially love the way Jesus challenges contact bias. Jesus reached out to the other at the table and put the other in the spotlight by giving the other a voice. On page after page of the Gospels, Jesus doesn't dominate the other or avoid the other. Instead, he incarnates into the other, joins the other in solidarity, protects the other, listens to the other, serves the other, even lays down his life for the other. In each case, he moves victims of scapegoating and exclusion from the margins to center stage so their voices are heard. Then the editor of the article goes on. Reverend Dr. Jackie Lewis leads what she describes as a multi everything congregation in New York City. She views inclusion as central to the gospel call to love. And then the Reverend Dr. Jackie Lewis writes, the one we follow into mission and ministry, Jesus the Christ, was an avowed boundary crosser, a reformed of the religious and secular culture of his time. We are in good company when we lead the way on radical inclusion of those different from ourselves. In some contexts, that might mean a black church reaching out to Korean neighbors, a Latino congregation starting a ministry to immigrant families from North Africa, or a Chinese church hosting an after-school program for African American junior high students. We believe the commitment to inclusion and diversity is a high calling issued to all who count themselves as Christians, no matter what our ethnicity or culture. Well, as I said, as I was reading this, a lot went through my mind, and mainly that a lot of what they're talking about, you could take the religion out of it, and it speaks to how we deal with each other and humanity, and that is the best form of religion, or religion at its best, I guess, is when it is concerned for the other, and how our interrelationships work with one another. And what we're seeing in the United States is a result of fear of the other, the indiscriminate kidnapping and imprisonment of immigrants in our nation, just based upon their appeared race or ethnicity, and without regard to whether they are criminals or not. And when people say, "Oh, they are just going after criminals because they're here illegally, and so they're all criminals," it's just a bunch of BS. And it's not. It is fear of the other that is driving that. It's not knowing that what the other people are like. It's one of the things I learned when I moved to Germany is even though it's a Western European nation, cultures are different. And one of the issues, and one of the reasons I was sent to Germany, was to try to develop some dialogue between the cultures, develop a culture of understanding. And one of the things I really found was that how you approach differences in the culture really changed things, and how you react to things. We tend to think that cultures that are different from ours are bad. And if you approach it that way, everything is going to be bad, and you'll look negatively upon the other, and look for the worst, as this meditation was talking about. But when you go in with the attitude of it's just different, it's not good or bad, it's just different, you can begin to appreciate the differences and see things in a different way. I could go into so many different things that I discovered about the German culture that I wish American culture was more like. And also the fear that I saw that American culture was impacting German culture and was changing it, not necessarily for the good either. I could see some of the worst things about American culture being adopted in Germany. But anyway, it really is about approaching the other in a way that involves curiosity and hope for understanding between yourselves. I mean, so many people live in monocultures, basically, essentially only one race, oftentimes only one social class, and so their perceptions of differences are fed by talking heads on so-called news entertainment channels, and also on biases that they are taught. And so when they approach someone who is different from them, they approach them with fear and misunderstanding rather than openness and curiosity. And that just leads to further divisions. There's so much we could learn about one another if we were just open to one another. There's so much we could enjoy even more if we just approached the other, people not like us, with curiosity. And I don't know, I think the right way to go is to try to understand your own biases, where they came from, because they're taught, and then try to set them aside and be open to discovering the beauty that we find in others. Living in different environments, moving around, living in different cultures, I think is important for everyone's development as a human being. So anyway, those are the thoughts that went through my mind as I was reading this. I hope it's giving you something to think about, and hope to talk to you again soon.